It's time. Sword Art Online Alicization Lycoris is a fantasy action RPG developed by Lycoris and published by Bandai Namco. I was actually hyped for this one. The trailers for this game are very well done, especially the story trailer. It's got that flashy gameplay going on, that awesome main theme, along with nice editing. It looks hype. Then it came out and I checked Steam and things didn't look so good, not even now. After reading about the bad performance, long load times, and bugs, I held off on buying it. Hollow Realization, Lycoris' previous Sword Art game, wasn't my cup of tea to say the least. It got old quick with a story that had a lot of potential, but they didn't go all in. I barely even remember what happened in it. Anyway, I really hope Lycoris got it right this time. They were close last time, and now that they had 3 to 4 years of development time to polish up the gameplay and story, this one has to be at least decent. Also, it has red. Red is my favorite color, in case you haven't noticed. So I have hope. The game looks like a mixed bag. While the character models have that nice, sharp anime look and the environments are full of detail, the draw distance is very low and the anti-aliasing doesn't seem to be working. I have the game on max settings too, I checked, and it still looks bad. Objects keep popping up and geometry gets more detailed the closer you get. It's really distracting. The performance is not the best either, with stutters and freezes every once in a while, and it's one of those games where alt tapping ruins everything. The cutscenes come in 5 forms: pre-rendered ones that looks good, the motion captured in-game ones that also looks good, ones made from recycled generic poses, ones manually animated that varies in quality, and visual novel. I can't believe they still haven't fixed this, but the character pics from the visual novel sections are still pixelated as hell. It may not look bad on video since I downscale my 1440p footage to 1080p, but trust me, it looks terrible. The images must not be optimized for resolutions higher than 1080p. I don't know how they upscale images, but there's gotta be a better way. I'll show the rest in the story section, but damn, it's a mess. The maps look pretty good though. They're a lot less flat compared to Hollow Realizations, with a lot more verticality to the landscape. Looks cool. Overall, the game looks good sometimes, like during combat, but very inconsistent in quality. The combat is very different from Hollow Realization. It feels more like an anime fighting game rather than an action RPG. It feels very sluggish, especially when you're up against bosses by yourself. You can do normal attacks, dodge, use sacred arts, which is basically magic, use skills, and chain skills. The devs realized that spamming skills is pretty damn fun, so they expanded on it. In Hollow Realization, after using a skill, it drains SP, and you have to recharge it while standing or wait for it to slowly charge back up over time. In Alicization Lycoris, attacking with normal attacks now charge the SP bar, allowing players to keep using their skills as long as they keep attacking, and that makes combat flow way better than spamming skills, wait for SP bar to charge, and get back into the fight. The devs also want the combat to be more tactical, but I don't think that went too well. The game is at its best when you're out in the field with 3 party members and gangbanging everything while chaining attacks with flashy effects everywhere. Sometimes you have to fight a boss one-on-one and it can be frustrating. You have to take it slow and be patient or your ass will get whooped. When you get hit with certain skills, you'll be juggled up in the air and you have to wait for a solid 4 seconds before you're back up. Same with being stunned. You can try to dodge, but you better get the timing right because it takes time to recover after dodging too. It feels like everything is just there to waste your time and it's not fun to control at all. If by tactical they mean making everything slower, and if you make one wrong move at the wrong time you get juggled and stunned and have to wait to get back up, then I guess they did it. The inclusion of the one-on-one battles aren't bad. They mix up the pacing a bit by letting you experience battles with an enemy equal to your skill level. My problem is the speed of the combat itself. It's either too easy fighting with party members or too slow in one-on-ones, and there's never an in-between. I think they already got that part right in Hollow Realization. You steamroll through enemies fast as fuck and the bosses take a bit more effort to kill. Some take too long like in the later DLCs, but that's the minority. All they had to do was polish up the combat from Hollow Realization and rebalance everything, but they went a bit overboard. You know, A for effort, but ultimately didn't work out too well. Everything else is okay, I guess. I never use sacred arts much besides the healing one. They're pretty weak unless you upgrade them by grinding quests from these statues. It's pretty boring, same with the village quests, so I skip those. The enemies don't do much. Just stand in place and let you do your thing and attack only sometimes. Bosses are pretty easy besides the one-on-one fights. This man was demolished within 10 seconds. I don't remember dying once in this game. You can raise the difficulty, but the default normal one should be more challenging than it is. Leveling up gives you skill points that can be spent on weapon skills you can use in combat, passive skills that you can equip 4 of, and combat skills, which are buffs basically. There are a lot of weapons to choose from, each with their own skill tree, so there's a lot to grind for if you're into it. I stuck with dual wield swords for the whole game and I got all the skills for it before the end of the story, so I had a bunch of skill points left unused. Character progression gets thrown out the window unless you want to max everything possible. There's not much looting anymore, which is one of the main things in Hollow Realization that kept me playing. You used to get new shit to equip all the time, but in Alicization Lycoris, I only got incarnations, which are stat boosts you can equip on your armor and accessories, both of which are way less cool than new armor or weapons. You can upgrade your equipment, but a lot of the materials you need like heart slates or melt slates can only be found in certain areas, so you have to go out of your way to find them instead of naturally exploring and playing through the game. Not that upgrading or finding new armor or weapons matter much anyway. This is boss fight with a dragon and I somehow equipped a wooden sword, a very early game weapon, instead of my usual night sky sword, and I beat that bitch no problem along with the boss after it. There needs to be some balancing fixes. After chapter 1 you can make your own character, even though you still play as Kirito, so it's weird when you run around as your OC and Kirito shows up in cutscenes, but I'm way over that shit by now. Character creation was one of my favorite parts in Fatal Bullet. There are so many options to choose from hairstyles to outfits, and even change the color of various parts of the outfit, which is awesome. So, there's a microtransaction shop in Alicization Lycoris. You can not only buy cosmetics, but EXP boosts and that type of shit too. With real money or SAO coins you can get through in-game raids or daily quests, I guess. It's all optional and I beat the game fine without EXP boosts and all that, so it's not a huge problem. Same with the cosmetics. But colors? Why are you selling colors? That's right, to change the color of your outfit you have to either buy a dye from the cash shop or find materials to make certain colors in the game. I just want to make my outfit red. Why do I have to go around looking for dye flower and pay money for this shit? I just want to look cool. And guess what? If you pay for a dye, it's only usable once. This is a fucking scam, I swear to hell. Just use a color slider, dude. Holy fuck. Alright, we're going into the story now, so if you don't want spoilers, go to this timestamp to skip. There's actually some good stuff here, so I kinda recommend it, but you had to get through a lot of boring stuff first. Watch on if you don't give a fuck. Alicization Lycoris adapts the Alicization arc of Sword Art Online, and it also has its own story that continues from an alternate ending of the arc. Kirito wakes up in a forest with no idea how he got there. In the show, he gets injected with some drugs by a Laughing Coffin member, a guild that killed players in the original SAO, and was transported to some government research base that does AI stuff where he wakes up in the underworld. The game doesn't explain that at all, so it might be confusing for the new players. Anyway, Kirito makes his way to a big tree where he finds blonde Kirito, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a childhood friend named Alice. She broke a rule in the Taboo Index. If you break any of these rules, you get sent to prison and forcefully have your soap dropped. Ever since that day, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been wanting to find her, but can't due to his calling of being a tree cutter. In this world, everyone has a purpose, and they're bound to that for the rest of their lives until it's done or they retire. So the boys hang out, give each other bro jobs, save a girl while wrecking some goblins, cut down the big tree, freeing Yu-Gi-Oh! Of his calling, and fuck off out the village in search of some dank pussy. Oh, and become knights. That's important. This is where the story changes a bit. On the journey to the town of Sakuria, the boys meet Medina, a girl of noble origin and professional tsundere. She's probably my favorite character in the game. Hell, maybe in the entire SAO universe, but I'll talk about her later. They help an old man find flowers for his daughter's wedding and reach Sakuria where Medina and the boys part ways and a 2-year time skip begins. I heard there's a big section of the original light novel that was entirely skipped here. Wouldn't it have been cool to actually play that in the game instead of following the anime? I don't know if it's a good chapter of the story, but it just seems like a big missed opportunity. So Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are now students of this night academy where they do all the shit a student does. Studying, practicing, and getting bullied by rich kids. Things are even worse for Medina. You learn that Medina came from a defective noble family. The Pontifex Quinella, the one who controls this world, gave Medina's family a task, but they failed to complete it for generations and was deemed defective. She gets fucking shit on, man. Like, she has this fiance who makes her do shit and kills her cat. Some motherfuckers be stealing her shoes and calling her names. It's honestly hilarious how cartoonishly evil these nobles are. Seeing all this shit happen to her, of course Kirito and blind Kirito comes to help her, and through the power of friendship the bullying stops. At least for a little while. This is by no means the best writing in the world, but it does make you want to see Medina succeed and show these assholes who they fucked with. The rest of the school section is boring as hell. There's a lot of talking and none of it is interesting. It's just boys learning about the world, doing school shit, noble shitting on them, and those two fuckboy dickheads cutting Kirito's flowers and making him cry. The game turns into a visual novel at this point. You can go 30 minutes or more at a time just reading about shit happening instead of playing and participating in them. It's very poorly paced. Sometimes they remember that this is an action RPG and then lets you do some training or go do some field assignments for the guards. But they end so quickly unless you want to do some more boring villager quests. We can't talk about Alicization without talking about the edgy fuck scene. It's absolutely hilarious here. The animation here is just awful. The lack of keyframes, the static poses except for the mouth moving. This is such a chef's kiss on the dick, I love it. This is supposed to be a pretty serious scene. It caused so much controversy that the author himself had to apologize to the voice actresses for putting them through this. They could have used motion capture for this one. They did it for the scene where they sit and stand around, but not for this one where it actually impacts the story? Who prioritized this shit? Kirito and Yujiro breaks the rule of rebelling against and killing a noble, and they get sent to the gulag. To take them there is an integrity knight, but this knight looks awfully familiar. It's Alice. She in fact did not get her soap drop, but instead transformed into an integrity knight. Doesn't look like she remembers Yujiro though. Anyway, they go to prison, break out, fight this kinky whip dude who also had his memories erased, and it's very easy, and meet Cardinal. Cardinal is a copy of Quinella, except she's a good guy and wants harem protagonist hugs. Next they plan an attack on Quinella's fuck tower. Guarding the tower are more integrity knights. Again, pretty easy. The boys fight their way up to Alice, and she along with Kirito gets thrown out the tower from hitting the wall too hard. Alice busted an eyeball like a good nut after hearing Quinella's evil, and they make their way back up. Yujiro goes missing but is found moments later indoctrinated by big titty lady Quinella. A couple fights later, Yujiro goes back to normal. You fight this gold weapon thing, Cardinal talks to Quinella for what seems like an eternity, and finally Kirito kills Quinella. Instead of fading away, Quinella turns into a flower seed thing. Kirito tries to use his console thing to contact the real world, but ends up getting zapped. Upon hearing this news, his waifus come to help him because of course they did. There are roots everywhere now, and the Integrity Knights form a team to deal with them. That was chapter 1 of the game, and it's the longest and most boring. It's a shittier version of the anime, full of exposition, over-explaining of how things work, a lot of pacing issues, and janky animations. I was so bored, I legit almost fell asleep twice through this chapter. It's not worth it, go watch the show instead. I don't think the things they added are worth it anyway. I recommend playing the light play mode, just to get a general direction of the story and move on. Chapter 2 is where things open up. There's more of a balance between story and playing the game instead of just reading for half an hour straight. So these roots travel throughout the land to grow these purple calamity plants that summon monsters. Every region you go has these along with a story connected to them. In the south there are big titans that are from the dark territory and they're killing each other for some reason. In the north, there's an evil queen who kidnaps children who looks like her dead son and there's incest vibes going on. These secondary stories are okay. Not too exciting. You go here, whack some monsters, then you go there to whack some more. These sound interesting, but they're executed very simply. They're all connected to the theme of obsessions, which is the main theme of Medina's story arc. Alright, so Medina and her family has been named defects for not accomplishing a task from Quinella and gets bullied hard for it. Because of the ridicule she experienced all her life, her desire to redeem her family, or should I say reclaim her name, becomes an obsession. At some point, Medina gets the ability to convert NPCs called Wayfarers with amnesia into soldiers that work for her. This is when she realized she can use this power to destroy the clams, and most importantly, reclaim her name. Remember that NPCs in this world has their own feelings and desires, so what Medina is doing is conscription. That's bad, and that's bad, but she doesn't seem all that bothered by it, because redeeming her family is more important than not violating human rights. Later on, a white man named Hersarian pops up to reveal to Medina that Kirito killed the Pontifex, rendering her gold worthless. Kirito wants to explain why he killed her, but keeps getting cut off mid-sentence because plot, I guess, which is kinda shit. But man, imagine your sole purpose in life becoming obsolete. That's tough to think about. Obviously, Medina is conflicted about this because Kirito is the first friend she's ever had and has been supporting her this whole time. This is like hearing about your friend fucking your mom, and no one wants to live in a hentai. Hussein eventually convinces Medina to leave the group to stop them from destroying the clamps. Apparently, Quinella can be revived using the monsters spawned from the clamps. So Medina's wayfarers started telling lies to the villagers and had them act as bait to lure monsters out. Again, pretty fucked up. After defeating the dragon, Hussein stops pretending and betrays Medina. What a surprise. He kills all the wayfarers, including the girl, and fucks off. Okay, let's talk about this girl for a second. She gets rescued in the desert area and gets molested by Medina to turn into a wayfarer that will accept her orders. Medina asks to befriend her and she accepts. All this time, Medina thinks it's because of that order the girl stayed with her, but it turns out that it wasn't. She asked the question and the girl accepted, making her truly Medina's friend. It was not an order, but a question. They're different, you see. When she gets whacked, you're supposed to feel sad, but she didn't get that much screen time. Also, bitch don't even have a name. You guys could have at least given her a name so I don't have to call her Twin Tails bitch every time. And I'm supposed to feel for her? How? Anyway, Medina realizes she was a dumbass and returned to the group. She then releases control of all the wayfarers and asks them for help without mind control. In real life, they probably would have hated her, but since it's anime, they agree to help because friendship. To apologize for her betrayal, Medina takes Kirito to her family's garden of licorice flowers. She explains that her family owns this land to grow crops, but nothing would grow except for these licorice flowers. So in a way, licorice represents hope in a place where there is none, and that's fucking cool. Now you look at the title, Alicization Lycoris, you get Alicization Hope. I love it when a game has a weird title but gets explained as you play. Medina is one of the most developed characters in all the SAO games I played. You don't just hear about her character changing or evolving, you're actually there alongside her as this all happens. You see her upbringing, her efforts towards her goal, how she dealt with failure, and how she redeems herself. It's not the best writing or whatever, but man, Medina is waifu. Now that I've gushed about good character, let's talk shit about another one. Hussein is the main villain of the game half of the story. He's an edgelord. You gotta have one of those in every arc of SAO it looks like. Hussein is one of Quinella's children. She saved him when he was little after his parents died. He became an executioner and has been doing the Pontifex's biddings ever since. Oh, and he's obsessed with her and calls her mother. Yep, he's one of those. Hussein is trying to resurrect mommy by gathering the memories of Integrity Knights. That's why he's been fucking with you. After killing the clamps, the gang goes to the Cathedral Tower to find Quinella resurrected. The white man goes into his past and reveals Medina's family is special for their pure blood and was hoarding all of Quinella's attention. Being the jealous little shit he is, Hussein rapes one of Medina's ancestors, ruining their blood, and Quinella names them defects. Hussein is feeling special because she thought Quinella called out to him specifically before she got stabbed to death to get her revived. As soon as Quinella breaks the news that she actually called all her children for help, Hussein becomes a whiny bitch and transforms into a giant fuck monster. You kill him and then fight Quinella, before Kirito gets sent into her mind space, where only weapons made from Medina's family blood works. Outside the mind space, everyone else is trying to find their way into wherever Kirito went. Somehow Medina's ancestors call for her and she teleported into the mind space, and sacrificed herself to become a weapon for Kirito to kill Quinella with. Later on, Cardinal gets back the powers to do commands again, and teleports Kirito back out, but it's not over just yet. The gang goes back into the mind space for one final gangbang with Scarlet playing in the background. Quinella dies, Medina is remembered as a hero, and they lived happily ever after. The end. Or do they? I don't know, and I don't really want to know, to be honest. The story is a huge mixed bag. I enjoyed Medina's story, but Between is full of boring shit. There are some interesting parts, but they don't really go deep into them. Everything can be summed up as go there, kill X clams, then go kill bigger clam. After that, go do that boring thing so you can kill that thing. It's so repetitive, and it doesn't help that the combat is not as engaging as it looks. There's a lot of exposition, over-explanation of how things work, so you just watch people stand there and talk for 20 minutes straight with nothing happening, along with pacing issues with overly long visual novel section in the first chapter. Man, that first chapter really sucked. It's a bad retelling of the events from the anime with missing scenes and laughable CG. Now that I think about it, there's not much Alice in this game that's called Alicization. She doesn't do much, she has a couple cutscenes with her sister in the village, but overall she's just a support character at best. What the heck, game writers, get it together. Sword Art Online Alicization Lycoris is not the worst SAO game ever, but it's certainly the most boring. The graphics look good sometimes, but has a lot of problems with draw distance, anti-aliasing, and bad animations and cutscenes. The combat looks flashy, but it's very simple and repetitive, with most fights won by gangbanging your enemies with skills. There are a lot of skills to grind for though, if you're into that. When it wants to be different, it's very slow and very tedious to control. The story, while it has some good parts, is filled with pacing issues, especially in the first chapter, and interesting but unexplored stories like the Titans and the Empress Incest. Throughout my whole playthrough, I felt like I was on autopilot. It's all just go to places and kill a certain amount of shit and repeat. When shit actually does happen, I couldn't give too many fucks. My mind went numb playing this shit, and in a way, that's worse than playing a bad game. It took me about 31 hours to play through the story with a lot of dialogue skipping, and I paid about $32 for it, so on a $1 per hour basis, this is worth it, kinda. But were those hours fun and well spent? That's questionable. Get it if you're a fan. If not, get it at a high discount, or just go play Fatal Bullet instead. Also, microtransactions, at least let us keep the items we buy for infinite use. I think Lycoris has a lot of good ideas, but the execution is lacking. Bandai Namco should give the license to another more experienced dev to take on the open world RPG thing. Also, when's Fatal Bullet 2, dude? I need that shit right now. Do it, make that shit happen, bro. Fuck. Anyway, what do you think about the video? Do you prefer shorter videos or longer ones like this where I go in depth into the story? Let me know in the comments, and remember to leave a like and subscribe and all that. Hopefully it doesn't take another month for me to make a video. Okay, bye.